Hello, my true crime lovelies. How are you? It's Tanika's Two Cents, and I'm back with Misha Janice. We're going to do part two of the witness list for the state. If you guys can hear us, if you could drop a one in the chat, that'd be great. I see Alicia, Alex, Ritz. Happy Sunday, aka the cat lady.
Hello.
Misha, can you hear me okay? Okay, I see one's coming in. All right.
Perfect.
So we've got three witnesses today that we're gonna start with the one that hasn't been on the stand yet, but pretty sure she's gonna be there, which is Melissa Sexton. So let me add her here. And then we'll go through this. Okay, hang on one second. It's up. How do I make us not in the way? Nope. There we go.
Okay. Yeah.
So we've got Melissa. This is her sworn testimony on the 26th of February, so the day after Sarah was arrested. She is the property manager. So at 12:05, the detective spoke with her. She was closer to Sarah than to George, at least as it related to discussing their relationship. But let's get into her audio.
Is it playing? I can't hear anything.
You were not hearing any of that?
I'm not. Nope.
Okay, let me unpresent and represent. Hang on. Hang on.
You had told us that Sarah would confide in you
Good.
about her and George's relationship.
Can you hear that?
Can you
Yes.
tell us further what she would tell you?
Yes. Sarah, shortly after she moved in with George, she came to the office to talk to me. We noticed bruises and stuff on her, and she asked me if she could talk to me privately and asked how she would be able to get George off of the lease. Is there any way to do that? Which prompted, deeper conversation. She proceeded to let me know and was showing me a lot of bruises and marks. There were handprints, scratches. She even at one point had to go to the hospital. Through multiple conversations that we had had, it steadily progressed. She had a very large gash at one point in her shin. She had to go to the hospital and get that taken care of. I'm not exactly sure what it was from, but I think it had to do when they got into a fight outside and something got broke. I think it was one of their wine glasses or something. But, she came to me at one point asking, what do I do? Like, how can I get rid of him? I've never dealt with this type of situation. I just counseled her as she continued to come to me and explained to her that, she had to make a decision if she was going to stay with him or not be with him. If she, was going to try to work things out, they needed to seek out therapy, help, something. It wasn't too long after that last conversation that I found out the police had come and George was arrested. I don't remember about how long it was in between time, but there was another incident after that where they both got arrested, all for domestic. The complaints throughout their whole term, roughly about 20 to 30 noise complaints, fighting, arguing, banging on doors, loud music. It was just always something pertaining to their lifestyle. I do know that I have seen both of them intoxicated as early as 9 o'clock in the morning, and I mean staggering, falling down, intoxicated. Both of them. And there was a noise complaint that I had received about some fighting one day that was going on, and Sarah was actually wandering around the property very drunk, barefoot, not properly dressed, I'll say it like that, sitting on the side of her building over by the retention pond. When I was told about that is when I approached Sarah, sat down, talked to her. I even had also separately went and talked to George and told them that once they had sobered up, I needed to have a meeting with them. The following business day, because this was a Friday, I do remember that. I went to see them Monday, roughly about 12 o'clock. They were sober. They apparently had some epiphany, that they were going to straighten themselves up and start acting right. And they did very good for, well, it's basically until now. I haven't gotten any complaints since May of the past year, But up until that point, the complaints were consistent, monthly, always.
Would you ever speak with George by himself? Like, did he ever confide in you about their relationship?
The one time where, like I was just saying, that when I talked to her, she asked me to go talk to him. But she's like, please, but put the fear of God in him. Fear of God in him. I'm a very stern property manager. I don't tolerate a whole lot of crap.
Right.
And she knew that, and she seemed scared of him at the time. So I said, sure, no problem, just stay here. I will go talk to him. I went over, sat down, talked to George. I talked to him for about 30 minutes altogether. And, George had explained to me that she was actually the aggressive one. And the reason she ended up with marks is, in my perception of what he was trying to explain is that she's very hands-on, in the face, dramatized in talking and explaining or fussing or whatever they might have been doing.
Right.
And I believe that because Jean, my assistant, doesn't even like to deal with her, would avoid her like the plague because she was always drunk and she's very hands-on. There was one day, as a matter of fact, it was that same day that I talked to George by himself. She kept grabbing me by the arms to the point that I told her, I said, you touch me one more time, we're going to have a problem. I'm either going to contact the police or whatever we need to do, but you can't keep crapping on me. I had asked her several times to quit touching me. And because of that, she would do the same thing to Jean, and Jean didn't like it.
Right.
So, that's what he was explaining to me, is she was always the touchy one, the aggressive one, not that she was hitting him, but she would be like in his face, or she might, push him, or, little things like that. And she would block him from coming out of the room or whatnot, and he would take her and move her. You know what I mean? And just, that's the way he had explained it to me.
Right.
She has told me, even literally to Monday, I have been told by her several occasions that he has drugged her around by the hair of her head. I've been, told about by neighbors. I'm sorry I don't have it anymore, but at one point a tenant actually sent us a video clip via text of them two fighting and beating on each other out in the backyard. There was another complaint incident about a ladder being propped up to the wall that George was using to climb over the wall to try to get back into his apartment, sneaking in and out. There was another night, sorry, I forgot to tell you about this too. I got a call for one of my vacants in building 24, 4724, which is not their building. There was a tent set up on my vacant back porch. And it's apparently where George was sleeping for a couple of nights because she had him out of the house. I have another tenant here who may or may not speak to you, I'm not sure. For that reason, I don't want to give you her name just yet without talking to her, but George and her fighting a different evening had actually wandered into her home. He was so drunk and had no idea where he was, and when she came home, luckily her kids were not there because she's a single mother with 3 kids. George was actually upstairs in her house hollering and looking for Sarah, thinking he was in his apartment. So we've had some incidences with them in that aspect, but nothing has ever been so bad that, I didn't feel that we could resolve the problem. And like I said, we haven't had any issues since May of last year. No complaints, no nothing until this. So we thought, hey, they're doing great. Maybe they fixed the problems. I mean,
Has she come to you since May of any issues?
no,
Okay.
not one time.
But then again, you did. It basically, they were told you're going to be evicted if there are.
Yes.
So it's kind of like
Was
tighten
that-
up or get out.
Yeah, it was put up or shut up. I was over it.
Yeah.
If it continued, I was putting them out.
Right.
So,
Did you ever see any marks on George?
not one. Not one. George was a little bit darker skinned.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Would you see
that I would-
George as often as you saw Sarah? It sounds
No.
like Sarah came to you a lot more
Yes.
than. Yeah.
We would always see Sarah as far as the only time I ever really saw George is the time when we actually got George to sign off the lease.
Right.
And he came to me and said, I can't get back in the house. She's got all my personal paperwork because would you please have a conversation with her so that I can get my personal paperwork back from her? He goes, but do you have a set of bolt cutters for my bicycle that's out back? And I said, what's it chained to, And he said, it's actually chained to your AC unit. I said, yeah, no problem. I'll cut the lock for anything attached to my AC unit. It's not supposed to be attached to that.
Right.
So I went out back and actually cut the lock on both of the bike locks because Sarah would not answer the door for me because she knew George was there. Once George was gone, she had actually, because Sarah had my cell phone number, being that I had already went through and just got out of a very abusive relationship, Sarah knew that because, I confided in her and explained that. She did feel a lot more comfortable in coming to me. So I told her if she ever needed someone, or it was an emergency, she could reach out to me and I would do what I could to help her. I felt bad for her. But after a while, when she just kept taking him back, I just told her, I said, you're just going to have to call the authorities on your own. It's obvious you don't want it to stop. He's not doing anything to get help according to you. Can you just keep dealing with it? I mean, there comes a point where it's just stupidity. But that's the run-ins and incidences that I've had with him. I've never seen a mark on George, and he's never told me that she's hit him at all.
Okay.
But she has told me in front of him that he has hit her and things that he's done, and he was not denying it. He never denied it. So George and her both expressed to me on many occasions that they knew they needed help. But I'm guessing due to their financial situation, not having any work, probably why they didn't do much.
Right.
When you saw them together, who looked to be like a more dominant? I mean, did one seem to be more dominant over the other?
George was very confident. He wasn't arrogant or anything. He, for the most part, stayed to himself. Like I said, there are a couple people here that he knew, from, I will say, another life from Philadelphia. And, George was the one I always seen driving the vehicle. George is the one I always seen playing with the child. Never saw Sarah outside playing with her kid, ever. As a matter of fact, most of the time, Lucas, you would find him riding around the property on his bike, unattended. No parents outside, no nothing. Because I had actually had a conversation with Sarah about that. And I said, the kid was a great kid, don't get me wrong, he never did anything to get me in trouble, but it was more my concern for his well-being. When he's all the way riding over here around some of these corners with the dumpsters, these people don't see nobody, and they sure ain't gonna see no kid on that. So I had a conversation with her about that, and we haven't had any really problems. I can say I've only seen Lucas on his bike away from her like that twice. She actually had secluded him to stay in front of the building, which was fine. I just didn't want him to live again. But yeah, you didn't see Sarah out at all. The only time I ever saw her, especially after the incident that took place with Emmett and his ex-girlfriend, it was more like a confrontation that took place in the office. She made an accusation on Emmett saying that he was trying to forcefully, I don't want to say rape, but he was trying to push himself on her.
On Sarah?
On Sarah. She made that claim.
Some tenant, a different
Yeah,
tenant?
another tenant that knew George from Philly. And they confronted the two of them. I will say Sarah held her ground when the girl confronted her and asked her and said, don't lie to my face. And Sarah said, yeah, he did. So I was surprised because she knew that girl was over butt. And she's larger than me. So, I was like, oh my gosh, okay, well, maybe there's some truth to that. But it ended up, just fizzling out. It was no big deal. After that situation took place, you really didn't see Sarah too much. She was pretty intimidated. Those two folks are actually a pretty large family that I have living here on site that actually took up 4 units at that time. So the whole family lived here. It's a little intimidating. So after that, we really didn't see a whole lot of her.
But before that, they would hang out periodically. So
The other two families, no, they just knew each other from back in the day.
all the couples that
The kids did.
the kids.
Yes, that's what initially prompted it, and then that accusation was made
Yeah.
during that same time.
Okay.
So, and when it comes to the kids on my property, I stay very involved with them. We had some issues with our bus routes and all kinds of stuff, and we had some kid vandalism being done, broken glass bottles. They were pulling glass bottles out of the trash, breaking them, thought it was fun. And one kid told on another, then the parents got involved. It became a little bit of an issue, so I had to get in the middle to squash it, I didn't want anybody fighting on the property or kids getting hurt for that matter. But that's it.
Is there anything else that you think is important for us to know about Sarah or George that we haven't discussed?
No, I don't. Nothing really. Her nickname's Drunky the Bear. Literally. We know they drank from sunup to sundown.
Would she ever? I know she confided in you a lot. Would she ever admit that she was an alcoholic to you?
Yeah.
She would.
Yes. I wish I still had my text messages. She sent it to me on text. And I know we drink too much and blah, blah, blah. She told me that George one time had enrolled in AA and was getting help. Now, whether that was any truth, I have no idea. A lot of stuff like that I just take with a grain of salt.
Right.
I think she was more concerned about the image that was being put in my head for them, and I think she was just trying to paint a prettier picture.
Right.
Because I will say, it was like a week later, she was drunk. And when we go, inspecting the property and walking around different projects, we do a lot of pressure washing throughout the year. We do that a couple of times. I ride around the back sides of the buildings, checking everything out. We've got a property drainage system back there. You always knew, because you'd ride back there and you'd hear 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, they're drunk, falling down, cutting up. My God, I can't imagine you being drunk like that all the time. Jeez.
Okay. Can you raise your right hand for me?
Yes.
Promise and swear everything we've talked about has been true and accurate to the best of your knowledge.
Yes.
Since they're recording 12-20 hours.
So
Wow.
that was Melissa. And Melissa, she mentioned in there that there was a DV claim that she had at one point. It came up in the trial. It's in the process of getting Sarah to trial. One of Sarah's public defenders who was conflicted out is because that person had represented Melissa in another case.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So there was a lot going on there. You heard about George being taken off the lease at one point. There was a lot.
Yeah, I wrote a couple notes, the first of which was when Sarah apparently asked her, Melissa, to put the fear of God in to George in speaking with him. Like, is that some sort of vindictiveness or retribution, or she wanted some kind of punishment for him? How far does that go?
Right. And she had said that on one of the arrests, the 2018, where they both got arrested, she said put the fear of the cops in him. But it felt like soliciting help, right, to punish him, like soliciting external pieces to
She
like
wanted him to be in
influence.
fear. Yeah. Either in fear of her or in fear of the control that she can exert over other people. So yeah, that stood out to me. And then also Melissa Sexton noting that, none of the neighbors have complained for, I don't remember how long, she said a year maybe. Is that because they were complaining nonstop before and you weren't doing anything? the community was not doing anything. So just like we heard Brandon Motes, which
Yes.
was the neighbor, he testified that, yeah, he would hear them all the time, but after a while, he just kind of tuned them out. So that's possibly what happened with the other neighbors, why they weren't bothering to complain anymore, because the neighborhood wasn't going to do anything about them.
Right. And Vinny even said Sarah had told him to be quiet, right? Or to if you hear any noise. So maybe she was warning people off because just
Right.
like mind your own business, you don't need to get involved, you don't need to call the police type, you
Right.
know?
Right. Ugh. Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure like what the state expects to get from her. I feel like, well, I guess she's kind of neutral-ish. She can talk about him being taken off. Well, I don't know why that would be good for the state. I don't know what she would be saying specifically that's good for the state.
To support. I think that comment that, the fear that she wanted George to have, um, that could possibly be it. I mean, um, the state basically said she wanted him gone. She wanted him to die. She wanted him to be in trouble. She said it herself in the video, in the drunken video. For all the things you
Yeah.
see, like this is how it. So.
And it seems to kind of follow her behavior like that we've seen since she's been incarcerated, right? Like in the behavioral notes, like she wants that, I don't know, the last word, the last jab. Like it's just,
Mm-hmm. It's a control
yeah.
thing, I think.
I think all of the like, yeah, she's fighting for control, and just even in the smallest of things, right? Of like
Yeah,
water and snacks or what have you.
right.
Yeah, she wants to, and if you won't listen to her, then she's gonna find something external to that to like bolster her control, you
And
know?
assert some type of dominance.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed.
So we saw on the stand Abraham Moreno, the maintenance guy. So I have that video. And then the last one I have is Juan, which at first when I saw Juan on the stand as the first witness, I wondered why. But then as I thought about it later, it is like a connection to George, like to start off with his humanity. So I thought that was powerful. But I feel like he may have been nervous, like you when you listen to the audio of his initial, but it was still fresh then too. So I'm not sure, but I got chills when he was on the stand,
He
and then
was
Abraham,
incredibly nervous, and you could tell. But I mean, he's probably never done anything like this before. He's on a big stage and he's talking about his big brother. So I could totally understand. I mean, I can't understand, but I think I can, sort of uh, empathize with his position. He was very nervous, and also, I think they invoked the rule of sequestration. So, since he is a family member, they often have family members testify first, so that their testimony will be over, and then they can sit in the gallery to watch the remainder of the trial. So that's one of the reasons that they call family early on in cases.
got it. Okay, all right. So our next one up is going to be Abraham Moreno.
Moreno.
Approximately 11:45 hours. This is in reference to Orange County case number 20-017904. I'm currently located at
4704
4704 Lucier Court, in Winter Park, Florida 32792, at the Tealwood Park Apartments complex in the front office. Also with me is, can you state your name, sir?
Abraham Moreno,
Okay, and your date of birth?
May 29th, 1967.
Okay, also with me is my partner, Detective Scott Lullen with the Orange County Sheriff's Office. Okay, Abram, prior to us going on recording, I was informed by Melissa, who's the property manager, that you knew George Torres.
Correct.
And you were explaining that you knew him from Philadelphia when he was smaller.
Yes.
And then now you, I guess,
Reconnected
reconnected
when I started working here in October
in October of last year?
of last year.
Of 19. Okay. So you said that you last saw him, you said it was last Tuesday?
Last Thursday.
Last Thursday. Okay, thank you. So last Thursday was the 20th?
Correct.
Sound about right? Okay. Now, what can you tell me about George and Sarah's relationship?
They had an off rocky relationship, which was physical on occasions. I'm aware of the fact that George had a probation officer. He was in anger management. And again, they had their good times, their bad times. Sometimes he would instigate the situations. Majority of the times, Sarah Boone instigated the situations. And she ended up with bruises. But that's more of him like kind of pushing her off of himself.
Okay. And that's what he told you?
Yes.
Okay.
And she verified it with you.
Sarah verified with you?
Yes.
Okay. Did they both drink a lot?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
In excess.
What?
In excess. They didn't drink to drink. They drank to sunrise to sunset, all the time in between.
Okay. Did you ever see them physically fight?
No.
Okay. Have you ever seen them physically argue?
I've seen them argue,
Argue.
but
Okay.
no physical contact.
Right. Has George confided in you about Sarah? About anything she's, I know you said that they both, sometimes he'll.
He notified me, he had told me on a couple of occasions where she called the police on him and had him put out. A
Okay.
couple of times he ended up getting arrested over it. And that she was the reason why he was taking the anger management courses and stuff. Because a couple of weeks ago, he was still working at the hardware store on the corner until they closed.
Right.
And that's where me and him would have more of our conversations than anything else. I'm going there to get stuff. Now it's just me and him, one-on-one.
Right.
She's not there to create this situation.
Okay. And so, just correct me if I'm wrong, you said that sometimes he would instigate it and sometimes she would instigate it?
Yes,
Okay, and he admitted to that?
yes.
Okay. Do you know when, did he confide in you about like their last physical argument or
No.
fight?
The last physical fight that they had, she mentioned it to me, Melissa, and Mr. Gene when she got arrested.
When she got arrested?
When we were all standing outside, and she said, I want to speak to you. And Gene walked over to an officer and said, is it okay if she speaks to us? They said we would prefer not, but that is her choice.
Right.
We did not ask her any questions. She had told us that a couple of days ago they had got into a fight where he grabbed her by her hair and dragged her down the steps.
Okay.
And that would probably be a day or two before this situation happened.
Before the situation?
With the suitcase.
Okay, so when did you talk? When was that?
She was talking to us outside Monday afternoon.
Oh, Monday. Okay. I thought you said the last time she got arrested, and I'm like,
No, the when she got arrested, when everybody was at her door.
when we were investigating.
When you were doing during your investigation, because you was typing in the car,
Okay.
she was talking to us outside. There was a young officer at the door who heard the conversation. Because he
Okay.
was only 20 feet away.
Okay. So she told you what again? One more time.
That they had gotten into a fight. He grabbed her by the hair and dragged her down the steps.
2 days prior?
Probably about 2 days prior to that situation.
So that would be Saturday.
Yeah, over the weekend, yes.
Over the
Whatever
weekend.
took place over the weekend, Saturday or Sunday.
Okay.
Then she told us that they were playing hide and seek. He went in the suitcase. She zipped it up. And then she went upstairs and passed out.
Did he ever confide in you, like, what he did? like for fun? Besides like the drinking, like is there other activities that he did? Did he ever tell you like, oh, I'm trying to get into this?
They actually used to do a whole lot of arts and crafts inside of the townhome. And they did a lot of it with her son. Kind of, there wasn't a perfect relationship, but they tried, I guess, in their own way.
Right. Okay. Is there anything else that he would tell you about him and Sarah's relationship that you think is important for us to know?
I think you actually know it all. They just had a very rocky physical relationship. On and off.
Okay. Did you ever see marks or bruises on him?
Yes.
Okay. Like what?
Scratches on the neck.
Scratches.
As I said, with her attacking him, he's kind of just
Trying to stop.
shove her back, but because she's such light skin, as soon as he touched her, instant bruises all across the arms and things of that nature.
Right. Okay. So I don't know if you've noticed or if it's been before, but the door, there's like a bunch of markings on the door. Have you ever noticed that or no?
How much door?
Their door.
Their front door, the very front metal door.
I haven't looked at it,
Okay.
but I know if I was to look at it, I could probably tell you what it was.
Okay. We're just curious if, like, since you had been working here, if you noticed it or saw it.
No,
Compared
because
to-
they had keys. Now, they probably slamming doors back and forth and had an argument. I know of one where her ex-husband showed up, but that would probably be around November.
Okay. Anything?
Has he ever talked to you about any damage inside the apartment that he needed help fixing that you couldn't do?
No.
Have you ever really been inside their apartment?
Yes, I have. I do the basic work orders, like change the verticals, patch up.
Have you
touch up
seen any
things.
damage that looks like it was caused by either one of them?
Not that I can say, it just looks like normal wear and tear of a unit.
Well, I noticed on the first floor, there's a half bath there.
Yes.
There's like two or three patches on that door. Do you know anything about those patches?
No, not the door. I did the patchwork in the ceiling, and that was due to a leaking air conditioner.
Yeah,
The door would have to have been super recent.
Yeah. One night. I did hear about that.
yeah. All right.
And you said has Sarah confided in you where George is not there? Or is it like,
The most she ever did was, we're fighting, we're arguing, he's always arguing with his ex-wife over the phone. I just tried not to get in the middle of that.
Did you know his ex-wife, or was that prior?
Oh, that's well after,
That's
because I lived down the street from George,
for how long?
93 to 2005.
So he would have started at, you said 14,
Yeah, around
so he would have been into his mid-20s.
yeah, but it was me and my wife. And
Yeah.
trust me, she works for DHS.
Okay.
She's a child service kid.
Yeah.
My son is a Philadelphia police officer. Different circles altogether.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. How well did you know him up there?
Oh, not like I said, to me, he was just a teenager running around with the other kids. And I
Did
was
you
like,
see him at the corner store and stuff like that?
yeah, stuff like
That's
that.
about
Well, literally on the block, because I lived here. My brother-in-law across the street was my ex-wife's aunt, and then George.
it. Okay.
So it was, and then her mother lived across the street. So restaurants. So no matter where you go, everybody sees each other on corners and stuff.
Now down here, Was it just coincidence you got the job here, was walking through and ran into him and went,
Yep.
holy cow? Okay.
That's literally what happened. It was like, whoa, real small world.
Do you ever go out, hang out with them, have
Nope.
dinner, go drinking? The only time we've ever seen them is when you're at work, either here on this property
Or when I would go to the hardware store. That's it.
Okay. Did you ever stay after and hang out in the apartment with them?
Nope. I don't hang out with residents.
Good.
Smart man.
Can you raise your right hand? Do you promise and swear everything we've talked about
I
has
confirm.
been true and accurate to
I
the
will
best of your...
confirm, I do not swear.
You confirm that everything we've talked about has been true and accurate to the best of your knowledge? Okay. This ends the recording 11:57 hours.
Tanika, are you around?
I am here. Sorry.
No problem.
A lot going on over here. Whoops. So I wanted to, on one of the things in one of the comments from the earlier one, someone talking about Melissa laughing. I too think it's out of embarrassment, right? Like she has that nervous kind of laughter. I don't think it's because she's not being honest.
That's exactly what I pinned it on. A nervous laughter.
Yeah. So what did you think of what he said here versus what he testified to?
I'm trying to think of what the differences were. I feel like he pretty much kept to the same script. I know on cross-examination, he was questioned by defense about the actual day that he said a statement, that he made the statement. And there's maybe a little bit confusion about the days. To me, that is a little bit inconsequential.
Yes. And I thought, because it was Henderson who crossed, I felt like he was like very aggressive out of the gate. I'm not sure if like defense attorneys have to be scary, but it just seemed like he was like, rah, as soon as he started questioning him.
Yeah, he's a little extra. He either plays the "I'm confused, help me understand" sort of card, or the, card where it's just like immediately on you about something that maybe doesn't really seem to matter that much in the general scheme of things. But yeah, I had seen some comments about Henderson's way of dealing
he
with
was
the
a
court and speaking with the judge, and
all of those.
questioning like how long has he been doing this? And I know there's some history there, but yeah, I no further comments about him.
Right. It was, yeah. I have thoughts, but I'm gonna withhold, restrain. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Let me get this part going. So this is gonna be Juan. And this is the 26th, so it's 2 days after his brother's been declared dead.
-017904. I'm currently located in my unmarked agency vehicle outside of 8315 Baja Boulevard in Orlando, Florida. In the car with me is my partner,
Scott Lowen.
and in the front seat is, sir, can you state your name for me?
Juan Torres,
And your birthday?
1/11/81.
Okay. And you are the brother to George Torres Jr., correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. It came to my, your parents had explained to me that you had a conversation with George a few days ago. Do you recall that specific date?
Yes. It was Sunday.
On Sunday. So Sunday, we're looking at the calendar together, the 23rd?
The 23rd.
Okay, so February 23rd, you guys had a conversation. Do you recall what time that conversation took place?
7:30. Well, it finished at 7:30.
Do you remember what time it started? Do you by any chance still have it in your call log?
does it do it when? So it had to be 7:30 because when you call it, clocks it. It doesn't do it at the end. It starts it.
It starts it, and
so
then it
7
tells you how long you talked for.
So it was 7:30.
Okay. If you do have it in your call log, I'd love to take a picture of it if you still have it.
That's Monday. Sunday right here.
So it'd be Sarah. Okay.
But,
If you click, I'm just gonna.
yeah.
There we go. Do you mind if I take a photo?
No, it's fine.
Okay. And so it says you received an incoming call at 7:30, and you guys spoke for 4 minutes.
Yes. We was talking. I was playing dominoes with my kids and my wife. And at first I wasn't gonna pick it up. Then I picked up.
Okay.
Because they were always fighting and stuff with the alcohol. So he started talking to me. He was calm. So I was like, oh, okay. So I put it on speaker. So my kids are there, like they joke around with him, and he was joking around with them. And we're talking, and then he's talking to me about when we was kids. And then, like a couple minutes after that, that's when I hear in the back start arguing with him. No, I have to call my brother. I have to talk to him. And he's like, no, I'm talking to my brother. It was her phone. So, and then she starts arguing and telling him that, no, tell him what you've been doing to me. You choked me, this and that. But he was calm. And he was like, okay, I gotta let you go. And then he said, I love you. And I told him I love you. And basically that was it.
So she yells in the background, tell him what you've been doing to me.
Yeah.
You've been choking me.
Yeah.
Did you ask him anything about that?
No, because the thing with them, they would fight and they would hit each other. Because there was times he came here and she had hit him with a phone and he had a black eye. So it was like...
Did you witness that?
I didn't get to see it, but he told me himself.
Okay.
So
you guys know that there's domestic between the two?
Between them. And I told him, get out of there, get out of there. I would tell him, leave. And what's crazy is that he would leave, come here, and she would call and tell him to come back, and she would come and get him. Mm-hmm. So she had the car, he didn't have a car.
Right.
So.
You said that he sounded calm?
He was calm, relaxed. Like he would. I can tell because my brother's been drinking for a long time. Mm-hmm. We tried to get him help before.
Right.
And I can tell when he was like really drunk, and he wasn't that drunk that night.
He wasn't.
So when you're describing him as calm, that's an indication that he hadn't been drinking that much.
That he wasn't that drunk. No.
Okay. So when he's been drinking, does he get really excited?
Sometimes he gets excited, and you can tell he like slurs his words, and and I can tell like he gets really emotional, and sometimes starts crying and.
Okay. And none of that happened that night?
No, none of that.
Have you ever witnessed them physically fight?
I've seen them because I've been to their house and she's come out all crazy. I went over with my wife and they had called me to go over there. She had called me to go over there.
Sarah?
Sarah had.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, I'll come over. That he wanted to see me. So I went over. And as soon as I get there, she comes out crazy because she had saw some guy peeing around the corner. And she was trying to fight the guy and argue with the guy. And my brother was like, yo, calm down, B. Just calm down. And it was like, I went to that. That's why I would try to avoid everything. Like, I would call, whenever he called me, I talked to him. I tried to talk to him.
Right.
But it was always, like, they were always.
Did she physically touch George, or was she just getting really upset? And
upset, like she came out upset. But there was I would like, there's a person, I can't remember, somebody seen him because he was on a bike one day, and he told me, I can't remember the person it was, because he was on a bicycle, and she hit him with the car, and I can't remember who the person was, and he told me.
Okay. Have you ever seen any marks on George?
Yeah, around his neck, eye.
Like what kind of marks?
Like the time she hit him with the phone.
Okay.
He had a black eye, scratches all over his neck.
Would you see Sarah every time you saw George?
Off and on. Like, if I would go over there, I would see her with him. And then sometimes if he ever came here, I would see him. Or sometimes when I would go over there, he would just come out and I wouldn't see him.
So you more saw your brother than Sarah?
I think it was equal.
Equal?
Because I've seen her, sometimes she had marks and stuff. So
and what do you mean by marks?
Like bruises and stuff too. They used to beat each other.
And where were her bruises be?
I've seen on her arm, black eyes too.
Okay. Did George ever confide in you about their domestic problems? Like, did he ever tell you? Is there anything else that he's ever told you about him and Sarah? Any arguments? Any physical altercations?
No, he didn't really like to talk about it like that. Like, everybody knew it.
Right.
Like, they used to come here and fight and stuff.
Okay.
And my mom wouldn't like it and tell them to go.
Right.
And I know one day she came, it's been like maybe like 2 months. My dad, because she always tried to hug everybody. Everybody didn't want to be hugging like that. And she pushed my dad, and my dad fell.
Yeah.
So,
would Sarah always be intoxicated when you saw her?
most of the time.
And what about George?
There was times he was not, he had drank, but he wasn't like drunk. Like, he would try to like eat and try to have her eat because they was always drinking so much. So he was like, we need to eat something. But
did you, like a couple of years ago, did you and your brother have any kind of a falling out? Did you guys get into an argument, a fist fight, or anything?
No. See,
has he gotten into a physical altercation with any of your brothers?
With Farrell, he did. The one that had the long hair.
The curly hair?
Yeah. With him, but it was just...
How severe of a fight was this, though?
Not brothers.
Did he
Anybody go to the hospital?
No, nothing like that.
Anybody have, like, bloodied lips, broken noses, anything like that?
Broken eye?
No. He had with my other brother, too, with Mo. George had went to the hospital.
George went to the hospital.
Yeah, George.
And it was a few years ago, 2 years ago, maybe 2.5.
That happened because she said they was drunk. They was at my Mo's house, at Moses' house. That's the other one.
Moses?
His name is Moses.
Is it last name Torres?
Torres.
Okay.
They had got into it because Sarah had came and said that George had beat her, and then they got into it, but I wasn't there that day. Moses he can tell you about that.
But George did go to the hospital?
George went. George was in the hospital for that.
Do you remember what injuries he sustained?
Something in his eye socket.
The nose, maybe?
I think his nose too. But something was wrong with his, like...
Orbital?
Yeah, the orbital. What?
All right. Is there anything else that you think is important for us to know about your brother or Sarah and their relationship? I'm assuming the 4-minute conversation, he was just kind of like, you guys were just talking at first.
At first, just talking. I would notice that he was okay. It wasn't a fight.
You said he was like, joking with your kids, and then you hear Sarah in the background,
and then that's when Sarah came.
And then you let him go, or he let you go.
Because he was like, my niece and nephew there, they can hear you, like. So I was like, he was like, all right, fine, then.
Okay.
How did she sound?
She sounded like crazy, like she always did. Like, she was always like that, crazy. Like, she would just start yelling.
Was she yelling any kind of threats or anything?
No. She was just saying about calling her brother.
Okay, can you raise your right hand for me? Do you promise and swear everything we've talked about has been true and accurate to the best?
So that was Juan. He did not call Sarah crazy on the stand.
No, he didn't. He held back, but he was nervous.
Yes.
Was
even with him, I feel like he was holding back in that interview, but it's definitely he's more relaxed than what we saw on the stand. And also, I mean, it's got to be a whole trip for that family, right? It's been like 4 years, 8 months, and this is finally happening.
Finally happening, yes. I am a little triggered in hearing some of the details and comparing it to one of the other cases that I'm looking at, the Courtney Clenny case, because that's a case that had quite a bit of ongoing DV, and she ultimately threw a knife, I can say that right, at her boyfriend in their apartment after yet another argument. The neighbors had called, the front desk, and police were getting called, and that knife hit him right in the chest, and he was killed. So I don't know what's going on, but this is
she had anger issues fueled from alcohol, right?
She did. She had a lot of alcohol abuse issues going on. They had been, spoken to by the police multiple times. Their building that they were living in had spoken with them multiple times. The neighbors were constantly calling, security on them. They had only been living in the apartment for about a month, and all this had happened already.
I saw the elevator footage, and I've seen some of the body worn cam when she's like freaking out in the lobby.
Right. And in that case as well, especially in body cam footage, you can see how she was hitting him, but he was not hitting her back, but he was putting his hands on her in order to keep her away from him. So I'm just wondering if that is, anything like what possibly happened with George and Sarah at times. It's so sad. It's definitely
sad. Unfortunately, I think in both cases, like, if they had intervention, really, it might not have gotten far. They shouldn't have been together. Like,
they should not have been together. Absolutely not. They were toxic from the day that they got together. But coming out of that case, not only is she going to be standing trial for his death, but there's also a wrongful death trial by his family against her, against the apartment complex, against the security company that provided security to the apartment complex. So especially listening to Melissa Sexton, I was like, I wonder if George Torres's family ever considered that. The statute of limitation, I think, is 2 years for wrongful death. So that has passed, but I just wonder if they had considered that at all, seeing as how the apartment complex that Sarah lived in was very much aware of, the turmoil that was going on in that apartment.
Do they have like a duty to report, or how does that work when there's ongoing domestic violence? Like, how can people protect? I know it's Domestic Violence Awareness Month, so like
Oh, is it? Man,
if
I should
you're a
have gotten
property
like
manager
some
or someone in
speaking
that
points
position, do
together
you
or
have a duty?
something. Sorry, what'd you say?
No. Can you repeat what you said? Sorry, I got my hands full.
Oh, no problem. I was just saying I didn't realize that I should have gotten some speaking points together about DV in the legal system.
Yes, it is. I just wonder if like anybody could have kept them apart. I don't know. It seems like everybody knew there was a problem, but
Yeah, it absolutely does sound like that. And it's sad that, it came down to what happened. And it sounds like they tried separating multiple times, but as I think is typical in a lot of toxic relationships, there's just something pulling the two forces back together again. So you want me to go ahead and show some clips from trial day 1 witness testimonies? Mhm. Oh,
are you going to share now?
yeah.
Okay.
All right. So these are rough edits, guys. Oops. Oh, I can't see the screen. There we go. Let me just back it up just a little.
Antorres. Thank you, sir. You may inquire, Mr. Cacciatore.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Can you tell us how it is that you know George Torres?
He's my older brother.
And how many siblings do you have?
6 or so.
How often would you talk with him?
Often we talk, I would say, on a weekly basis.
And how far away did you live from George?
About 5-10 minutes. Pretty close.
Would you see him pretty often?
I would try not to go over too much.
Who was George living with at the time that he passed away?
Sarah.
And without getting into many details, what was your relationship like with Sarah?
We didn't really have a relationship.
Would it be fair to say you didn't get along with her?
Yes.
Back on February 23rd, 2020, did you have an occasion to talk to your brother on that day?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell us what the topic of that conversation was?
We were just talking like we normally did. He just calling me to check on me, basically. Sarah's in the background yelling.
And you recognized her voice?
Yes, sir.
What was she yelling about?
Something about choking or how he choked her. I really don't. That was it.
About how long was this conversation that you had?
Maybe 10 minutes, I think it was.
How did the conversation end?
Because she was yelling in the background, so that was it.
Did she sound upset?
She sounded upset.
Did you talk to your brother after that conversation?
No, that was the last conversation I had.
Let's go back to this phone call that you were talking about that was on February 23rd of 2020. And that phone call was approximately 7:30. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And who called you?
He called me.
And then y'all were talking. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And when he called you, Did you notice anything about his speech or his voice?
No, he was fine.
Sounded normal?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so he wasn't slurring his words or anything like that?
No.
By the way he talked or what he talked to you about, could you tell at that time if he had been consuming alcohol?
No, because I knew when he was drinking.
Okay, so in your opinion at that time, based on what you heard and what he was talking about, you do not believe he had been drinking alcohol?
No.
And you said that Sarah was yelling. Is that correct, sir? And she was yelling about, he's choking me. Or tell him about choking me.
Yes.
Okay. During that conversation, and you heard her say that, did you ask your brother, what is she talking about?
No, I did not.
Did that statement at that time, did that statement surprise you?
Not really.
You've heard it before?
No.
Based on Sarah's voice that you heard, was it any indication to you that she had been drinking?
No.
So, Tanika, what do you think about that? Because he's heard both of them. He's seen both of them intoxicated in the past. But isn't it strange that he doesn't think that they are on that night, that evening? It may have been a little early still, 7:30.
Right. Well, we know like after they got off the phone in the timeline at 7:30, then there was some sort of argument that the front room neighbor, Brandon, heard.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it. I don't know. When I watched it and I commented, it tripped me up too because I'm like, is it? Yeah, I don't know. He's so used to them being drunk that
started drinking, maybe,
but it was they already had the 12 something bottle, and then they went back and bought another bottle at 5. But maybe their tolerance is good, and now we know they were Magnum bottles. They were not the regular 740. Yeah,
you're right.
Maybe because they weren't slurring. That's what I'm like. Maybe for him, drinking is when his brother is drunk. And because in his other interview, he said he didn't sound drunk. I can tell when he's drunk because he sounds sad, right?
Right.
So maybe it's not, I don't know, because that's not what Henderson asked, but I'm just trying to, I think for him it's drunk.
Somewhere. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. That just seemed like a little bit of a disconnect to me.
Yeah.
All right. So, guys, don't mind the edits. This was roughly edited, so it'll jump around. But the whole point was to get every one of the witnesses' testimony, kind of in a synopsis. So let's just continue really quickly with Devin.
My name is Devin Jamro. That's BEVINJAMRO.
Yeah, I spelled it wrong.
You may question.
My bad.
Sir, who do you work for?
I work for Public Supermarkets.
And what is your position with Public Supermarkets?
I am the assistant store manager.
And sir, do you recognize those items?
I do, yes.
And tell us, what are these items?
These are Publix receipts.
Are these receipts evidence of transactions at Publix? Are they made at or near the time of each transaction?
They are absolutely made at the time of the transaction.
And is it?
This is CCTV footage burned from the camera system at the location.
And at Publix, is it the regular practice of Publix to utilize surveillance cameras?
Yes.
And in the normal course of business, are the videos from those surveillance cameras kept?
Yes.
And are these the cameras taken from February 23rd, 2020? And I believe there's 2 video clips included, one at 12:17 p.m. and another at approximately 5:39 p.m.?
Yes.
And they fairly...
Joan Williams, Williams.
Thank you, ma'am. Counselor, you may inquire.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Can you tell us what it is that you do for a living?
I'm a 911 call taker at the Orange County Sheriff's Office.
And how long have you held the regular practice of Orange County to record 911 calls?
All lines are recorded.
And does this disc, does it fairly and accurately represent the 911 call that you took in this case on February 24th, 2020 at 12:59 hours?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time I'd like to...
VINCENTBATTAGLIA.
Thank you.
Okay, so just real quickly, those last two witnesses were the Publix store manager and the 911 operator. They were just brought in to authenticate the receipts for the wine, the CCTV from the Publix showing George and or Sarah on the two
So
different.
there's two. One has George and Sarah, the one that's a little bit after noon, and then there's just George on the one that's after 5 p.m.
Okay, so just introducing those into testimony, but those
Right. And
have
I
not
feel
been
like
shown yet.
also I feel like they're delivering on the opening already, right? When Mr. J was like, we're going to have the receipts. So you've
There
got
you
those
go.
2 big bottles of wine that are coming in
Yeah.
in the afternoon, but you've got the 3 receipts demonstrating their purchase.
Yes. All right. So this is Vincent Battaglia, the next door neighbor. Let's get into that really quickly.
So you may inquire. Back on February of 2020, where were you living at that time?
I was living at the Tealwood Apartments in Winter Park, Florida.
And what were you doing at that time when you were living at Tealwood?
I was enrolled in Full Sail University. I was in school.
When you were living at Tealwood, did you have any roommates?
Yeah, I had one roommate, Brandon. Yeah, that was it. Them.
That's Brandon Motes. Did you have neighbors?
Yeah.
Were you neighbors with Sarah Boone and George Torres?
Yes.
And approximately how long were you neighbors with them?
About a year, a little over a year. I moved there in January 2019.
And during the course of that year that you were neighbors with them, did you have occasion to interact with them at times?
Yeah.
Would you ever have occasion to hear arguing and yelling coming from Sarah Boone and George Torres' apartment?
Yeah.
How often did Sarah Boone approach you about the things that you heard coming from their apartment?
Yes.
And where were you when she approached you?
I was smoking a cigarette on my back patio.
And approximately what time?
It was pretty late. I can't remember the exact time, but it was definitely anywhere between like midnight to 2 a.m., like right around there.
And do you remember how much before date when the police called that this occurred?
A few months, like probably 4 to 5 months before that.
So 4 or 5 months before February of 2020.
Yeah.
And when she approached you on this late evening / early morning on that day, what did she tell you?
Pretty much just kind of like, if I do hear anything, like through the walls or whatever, just out back, just kind of keep my mouth shut, like don't really speak about it or anything like that or say anything to anyone. And I just was like, okay.
Did she make any motions with her hands?
Yeah, like just kind of like, finger over the lips, like kind of like keep it hush, like that kind of thing.
So she told you not to report anything you may have heard about arguments or yelling or fighting, anything going on over there.
Yeah.
Do you recall the evening of February 23rd, 2020?
I do, yeah.
And what about that evening sticks out to you?
That sticks out to me from that night was literally just there was a very, very loud noise that I heard that was loud and powerful enough to shake my bedroom wall. And I remember that because I was sitting on my bed on FaceTime with my girlfriend at the time, and I literally felt the wall shake and stopped me mid-conversation. And she even asked me through the computer, like, what was that? And I was like, I have no idea.
Did you hear any yelling coming from their apartment on that night?
Before that, yeah, like it was just arguing kind of stuff.
What was the last thing you heard?
The last thing I heard was like the loud noise and just a little bit of shuffling, and that was kind of it. It just kind of went silent after that. Heard before this day, but it very much sounded like it was like where my bed was positioned. It was kind of towards the back of the apartment, and it almost sounded like it was coming towards me, but like on the side of me, then it was just like a loud rumbling noise. Like it literally sounded like it was kind of far away from me, and then it like ended up like almost next to me. And like I said, the walls are thin, so like it's very easy to hear like through the walls, and not even just sideways. Like I hear my upstairs neighbor, like all around, very thin walls.
Now, was your bedroom, where was it located in your apartment?
The back of the apartment. So it was like, there's like a little kick out next to my patio, and that was my bedroom back there, like along the grass back there.
On the first floor?
On the first floor, yeah.
Do you have an opinion as to whether or not, based on your interaction with Sarah Boone?
I'm going to object.
Let me finish the question first, please.
Do you know from your experience with Sarah Boone and your experience with George Torres that they drank alcohol?
Yeah.
Hang on.
I'll withdraw to that question.
Thank you.
Yes.
Are you aware that they both consumed alcohol to excess?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, my name is Brandon Motes, BrandonMoats.
Thank you. Mr. Castro, you may inquire.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Can you tell us how it is that you knew Sarah Boone?
I moved into the apartment next door to her when I was in college.
And so how would you describe the walls that separated
So
units?
yeah, I remember that my bedroom was like the front-facing bedroom, and our walls shared a wall with where their staircase was. So like the way the apartments were laid out, we had a one-story apartment, they had a two-story apartment. So they had a staircase running right next to the walls next to like our bedrooms.
Would you ever have occasion to hear arguing and yelling going on inside of the defendant's apartment?
Yes, the walls were pretty thin, so if people were yelling, you could definitely hear it. When I first moved in, it was it was at least like once a week, to the point that I started tuning them out. Like I got good enough at just like not listening to them. They argued very, very often.
Do you recall the evening of February 23rd, 2020?
Yes, sir.
And on that evening, could you hear arguing going on in their unit?
Not late into the evening, earlier into the evening, probably like 7, 8 o'clock that evening, probably like earlier on, I could hear arguing.
And where were you inside of your apartment?
I would have been in my bedroom pretty much all night.
And your bedroom, just so that we can paint the picture, where would that would it have been, on the first floor or the second floor?
We had a first floor apartment.
Okay, so all the units were, or all the bedrooms were on the first floor.
Yeah, like I was saying before, we had a one-story apartment, and then they next door had like a two-story townhouse, so we only had the one floor.
Understood. And at a certain point in the evening, did you hear a loud crashing sound?
Yeah, probably around 10:30, 11 o'clock that evening.
And can you describe that sound for us in more detail?
I mean, yeah, literally, like I said, at like 10:30, 11 o'clock, it's the way their staircase was set up. I could, my bedroom, the top of their staircase would have been like above my ceiling, and it ends next to where like my roommate's apartment was. So I could hear something start above me super loud and then fall away from me, like it was falling down the stairs.
Did this affect the walls that were between your two apartments?
Oh yeah, me and my roommate. I remember me and my roommate talking the next day about like we could literally like it shook both of our rooms.
Did you ever have occasion to talk with the defendant about what happened?
I never saw her after that. She would have. Yeah, I never saw her after that happened.
No further questions.
Correct. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
I think you said you tried to avoid them.
Yeah. I don't like drunk people, and they were drunk a lot, so I did not interact with them.
Okay. Do you remember this interaction with Sarah Boone in 2009 when you woke up and witnessed Sarah?
I would have been 9 years old in 2009.
I'm sorry, 2019. Good catch. In 2019, when you woke up and witnessed Sarah sleeping on the concrete patio.
Oh, this may have been a slight misconception in how I said this. I never woke up and saw her sitting on the patio myself. That I would have seen her on the patio eventually, but it's not like I woke up and went back and saw her on the patio. This was my roommate relaying the story that she had fallen asleep on the back patio, and then I like saw her.
Or did you see her?
I saw. Yeah, I got locked out of my apartment, so I was waiting on the steps I was like waiting on the steps outside of my apartment for my roommate to get home. So she came up and started talking to me. I don't really remember too many like details of what she was saying, because I didn't want to talk to her. She did, but yeah.
Okay. Do you remember saying that you believe Sarah was avoiding going into her apartment?
That's definitely I don't remember what she was saying, but like the vibe she was giving off was that she didn't want to go home.
Spell your name for the record for us.
Okay. Any thoughts about the neighbors before we move on to Brian?
Yes, but before we move on, I also want to say Brian has an amazing head of hair, and his sideburns threw me back to the 70s. He looks good. He looks much more relaxed than when we saw him on the what was it, the 24th of February back in 2020. Anyway, okay. So I think for the witnesses, I feel like both of the students, the roommates, came across just as frank and honest as they could be, like nothing to hide. I know that Vinny came in from New Jersey, right? So they were, defense wanted to hold him and then didn't because I guess they couldn't afford to keep him. So I liked those two. Yeah. I liked Brandon's specificity about like when he was asking the questions back, and he didn't just go in when Henderson was like saying, were they going back and forth? He was like, I heard two voices. I heard a male's voice. I heard a female's voice. I'm not saying they were going back and forth.
Yeah.
So yeah, and his quickness with I was 9 in 2009, and Henderson was
He
like,
was
oh
right on
yeah,
top of that. I
oh my
like
god.
that.
Well, he was born in 2000, so I think that makes it easier too, right? But yeah, it was he was unfazed, unbothered, and just like very matter of fact. I
Very
enjoyed
matter
his
of fact.
testimony.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. They are both believable witnesses. I mean, they don't really have a dog in the fight, so they just said what they knew.
So last week you were on the fence about if something went down the stairs. What are your thoughts now?
Girl, I still don't know. I still don't know.
It's
We
hard.
saw photos. Photos. We're going to see a couple photos in a little bit, introduced through Miss Roughgarden, and we saw a picture of the staircase,
The
but
bottom
from the
of the
side.
stairs. Nothing was disturbed.
It didn't
Right?
look like anything was disturbed. I don't know if I could really tell what was on that bookcase, but there was a bookcase facing the stairs. So like the stairs are going up this way and there's a bookcase right here. So leaving very little foot room at at the bottom of the staircase. So if there was a suitcase that went down that set of stairs, it didn't mess up the bookcase or
Right.
whatever was on it was
It
cleaned
could
up.
have stopped short though. Like maybe it didn't hit all the way to the bottom of the stairs. I don't know, but the way they're describing it, it seems like it would have enough force, so something. They heard something going down those stairs though.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm convinced they heard something. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we're going to get an answer to that.
Yeah, I don't know. And then, oh my God, we're not there yet, but it's on my mind. The fastener on the suitcase when we get there, like there, I thought it was a whole paper clip the way Sarah described it. Not that that would have been fantastic. I don't even know if that was a nub on there. Like, are you serious? Even if he could get a finger out, how is he supposed to find that? Anyway, don't get me started.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't get me started on the on defense counsel asking her, well, are you an expert? How much experience do you have with zippers? She's like, I open them. Let's go into Brian Boone, who was kind of a pleasure to watch. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to think about it.
Brian Boone, BRIAN BOONE. Thank you, sir. You may
I'm so nervous.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Can you tell us how it is that you know the defendant?
I dated her for quite a while, and then we eventually got married.
When you say you dated her for quite a while, how long are we talking?
I met her in the late 90s, and I believe it was around 2005 when we got married.
Did you have any children as a result of your marriage with the defendant?
Yes, we had one son.
And how old is that son?
He is currently getting ready to turn 14.
Did your marriage with the defendant last?
And no, it did not.
And approximately when was it that you separated and began proceedings for divorce?
Probably 2017, I'm thinking maybe.
And at that time, when was your divorce actually finalized?
Maybe it was 2016. I think the divorce was 2017, I believe.
And after your divorce, what was your custody arrangement with your son that you had in common with the defendant?
She was supposed to have him on Mondays and Tuesdays. I would have him Wednesday, Thursdays, and then we'd alternate Friday through Sundays every other week.
So February 23rd, 2020.
On that evening, well, apparently Sarah called me at one point during the night.
Do you recall about what time she called you?
I think it was 11 something.
When you answered the phone, how did Sarah sound on the phone?
She sounded like she had been drinking, was pretty drunk.
Were you able to understand what the defendant was saying?
Somewhat, but she woke me up. I had work the next day. I was asleep when she called. She's done this before, calling me late at night, and generally I kind of just try to ignore it, so I wasn't really paying attention.
Who was she living with at the time?
George Torres.
When she called you late that evening, could you hear George in the background at all?
Not that I remember, no.
Did you pay much attention to this phone call?
No.
Now, the following morning, on February 24th, 2020, did you begin to call the defendant?
Yes, I did.
And approximately what time did you begin to call the defendant?
I think it was like 11 o'clock or something.
And why was it that you were calling her?
Well, it was going to be Monday. I had him on Sunday and dropped him off at school, and I was calling to trying to find out if she was going to be actually picking him up that day.
Why would you have a question about whether or not she was picking him up?
She wasn't generally very good about actually getting him on the day she was supposed to.
So it was not uncommon for you to have to remind her to pick him up or to make sure that she was going to pick him up?
Well, I mean, remind or just find out if she was going to, or if she was just going to give him over to me as what happened.
Do you remember at what time on February 24th you actually got in touch with the defendant?
It was like 12:30 or something.
And when you actually got in touch with her, what did she tell you on the phone?
That George was dead, and if I would come over.
Did she say what happened to him?
I don't remember if she told me then on the phone or when I got there, but she told me they had been playing hide and seek and that she fell asleep.
What did you advise her to do?
I told her she needed to call 911 and that I would come over as soon as I could.
And this is on your first phone call here at approximately 12:30
Yes.
on 2/24/20.
Yes.
Did she call you again while you were en route to her residence?
She did. She called to find out if I was still going to be coming over.
And when you spoke with her while you were en route, what, if anything, did you advise her?
I told her she needed to call 911 and told her I was on my way, but she needed to get somebody over there.
How long did it take you to arrive at her residence?
From the first phone call, or?
Yes, from the first one.
Total time, maybe 10 minutes.
When you arrived at her apartment, tell us what she told you when you arrived.
George was dead, and once again, I don't remember if she told me now or before that they had been playing hide and seek and she fell asleep. But I, at that time, told her again she needed to get 911 called to get somebody over there.
Had she called 911 at this point?
No, she had not.
So you've advised her now 3 times to call 911.
Yes.
Did you go inside of her apartment?
I walked in the front door into the little tiled area, like entranceway thing.
What, if anything, did you observe when you made it to that point?
Looking into the living room, I could see like the end of his feet and maybe a little bit of some legs that were kind of coming out around the backside of the kitchen area.
Did you continue to go into the apartment?
No.
Where did you go?
Sarah told me she was going to call 911 and go outside and have a cigarette and a drink and asked me to come out there with her. And I told her that I didn't really feel comfortable being inside. And I went out front and got in my car and waited for people to show up.
Did you witness the defendant call 911?
I think I was in there when she dialed it and first got somebody on the phone, but I wasn't there for the whole conversation. No, I was outside.
Did you stay there at the scene while police arrived?
Yes.
Spell your name for the record.
All right. Brian.
Great
Why is it that
head of
he had
hair.
to tell her the hair? Why is it he had to tell her 3 times to call 911? 3 times.
Yeah, that's crazy to me. And so it stands like flat in the face of, I didn't know what to do because before he ever left, he had already told her. So what was she doing? What was the plan? And then she called him back to make sure he was on his way. But on the call log, it doesn't look like she called until he arrived.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
Like-
she knew what to do. Even if she didn't know before she talked to Brian the first time, she knew after. So why didn't she call immediately?
Exactly. Exactly. Ugh.
And if she got up, so this is like 12:30. She calls 911 at 12:59. What were you doing all that time? Like, what were you thinking about what to do? Because Brian was calling her and calling her and calling her. And the last time Brian called her, she picked up and said, George is dead.
At 12:30, correct.
It was at that point, it was like 12:49-ish, something around there when she finally picked it back up. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah, it was, I just don't know. I have so many thoughts now. Like after I saw what was in the suitcase, I feel like maybe he was trying to get away. It's just as at some point I feel like she knew he was dead, and she was just trying to cover her tracks, like before thinking, oh, Brian can help me or whatever else, like because she was too comfortable with the body already in the house, right? Like walking in and out. She wanted to go get a soda. She wanted to go, like, ma'am, your
Get
loved one
cigarettes, get sodas,
is here.
get water. Yeah, right.
But it could be a Sarah-ism. We know she likes control. She's asked the judge for water, so maybe now it's not as big of a thing for her to be like, I need water. I don't know. Sarah's weird. I don't know.
Yeah, let's should we skip over Abraham?
I think we can, yeah.
Okay, let me see
Oh,
if I,
although I want to say in the chat, they were saying like how they didn't hear him say, or he didn't report that Sarah wanted to teach him a lesson. But we did see that filing last month, I guess, somewhere between now and when Owens came on, about him saying she wanted to teach him a lesson. So that was coming up in the chat. I don't
what filing
know.
was that?
I didn't hear him say it when we just listened to it. So I don't know that I can't remember in their filing if they were saying he said it then or I don't know what was it was confusing, but they put it on the record and he testified to it. So
Yeah, it seems like there was some discrepancy about whether he told the officers the first time he spoke with them.
right.
Yeah. Let me okay. So we'll skip Abraham and we'll go over
Kayla, oh my god, she was like a little Barbie doll. She was so
I know.
beautiful.
I know, I know. Okay, so I did not I did not pull clips of the body worn camera,
Okay.
body worn footage. Um because I think you've shown it before, right? Okay, that's
Yes,
all.
there was a slip. Like we saw the body though, and all the other footage we've had, he's been blurred out. So we did see his body laying there, and it was like right as you walked in, which made it even more egregious to me that Sarah wanted to just pop in and get
Just
stuff
step
and pop
over.
back out.
Yeah. Yeah, she did. Although Sarah had questioned why he was purple, right? And the slip when we saw the body didn't look purple to me. We couldn't see the face, but
Right.
just the bare legs and the arms and hands, they didn't look discolored to me, but
They did not, but if the purpling is from lividity, it's going to be on whatever the lowest part was. So obviously he wasn't in there laying flat, so it's going to be either on his left or right side. I'm guessing, or he was his back somehow was to the ground in the suitcase.
oh, I need to hear from the Emmy. I need a I need to hear from that person to testify. Where was that? Where was the lividity?
Also,
Because
on one of the things Henderson asked about, oh no, it wasn't Henderson, it was Beck when he was asking Melissa Roughgarden about the taking him out of the suitcase. Like he was already out of the suitcase when everybody got there because she was doing CPR. Uh,
right.
I just am wondering, like, has Henderson read all the notes? Is someone relaying these? Like, he's missing things.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. Maybe he's trying to confuse the jury.
They're gonna think he's confused then.
Yeah. I don't know. I just have questions about the body and the time of death and how long does it take for rigor mortis to set in. He was laying out on the ground straight. He wasn't balled up and, in any kind of position. Was he balled up when Sarah took him out? Like, when did that happen? When did he actually pass is my question.
Right. I think he passed the night before because I think he probably had already gone through rigor, right? It's 8 to 12 hours because
Right.
she didn't mention anything about like not being able to get him out. And he was lying flat.
Right.
So it
Right.
might have receded by then.
How long does it take to recede? I don't know. That's why I said I want to hear from the Emmy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, let's continue with Deputy Kayla Rodriguez.
Kayla Rodriguez, Kayla, Kayla, Rodriguez, Rodriguez.
Thank you. Statutory, you may inquire.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Hi.
Can you tell us did you work for?
Orange County Sheriff's Office.
And what is your position? First showing you has been marked for identification as states I. Do you recognize that disc?
Yes.
Did you have an opportunity to review that disc prior to coming to court today?
Yes.
And tell us, what is that disc?
Body worn camera from the day of the incident.
From February 24, 2020?
Correct.
And is that your initials on the disc?
Yes.
And does that disc fairly and accurately represent the contents of your body worn camera?
Yes.
You're at this time.
You state and spell your name for the record for us.
John Martinez, JOHNMARTINZ.
Thanks, sir. You may be seated. Thank you.
Orange County Sheriff's Office,
And what is your position with Orange County Sheriff's
Deputy Sheriff.
How long have you been Boone here in court today?
I do.
Could you please point to her and identify an article of clothing she's wearing?
The lady sitting in the middle with the black blazer.
Your Honor, may the record reflect that the witnesses identify the defendant?
Record will still reflect.
During the time that you were on the scene, did you have a body-worn camera?
I did.
And was that body-worn camera activated?
It was.
Were all your contacts with Ms. Boone recorded on that body-worn camera?
It was.
Were other deputies also on the scene at that time?
Yes,
And was Deputy Rodriguez there?
she was.
So would both of your body-worn cameras both capture some of the same time frames?
Correct. Yes.
Like, this was totally, like, not intentional. Like, that's what I'm scared about, too. Like
Melissa Roughgarden, ME.
Okay, so I may have thrown in just a smidge of Sarah. But now, thanks to Deputy John Martinez, we actually know who the defendant is because he is the first witness who has identified her in court. I don't know if the state forgot to, but they didn't have any of the prior witnesses identify Sarah as the actual defendant.
I think they forgot.
Which is pretty.
There was a lot going on.
There was a lot going on. It's pretty important, but thanks to this deputy, now we know who we're all talking about. We're all on the same page. All right. This is our last witness, Melissa Roughgarden. She is the crime scene tech.
ELISSAROUGHGARDEN.
Thank you. Counselor, you may inquire.
Ma'am, who do you work for?
I'm employed with the Orange County Sheriff's Office.
What is your position with the Orange County Sheriff's Office?
Currently, I'm a forensic biologist with the forensics unit. Prior to this, I was a crime scene investigator for 5 years.
And how long did you respond out to on that day?
I responded to 4748 France Court, Apartment 3.
And is that in Orange County, Florida?
Yes, it is.
And when you responded to that scene, whom did you make contact with?
I made contact with the homicide detective, Chelsea Capsule.
Did you receive information from the detective?
Yes, that it was a death investigation.
Did you walk the scene with the detective?
Yes.
And tell us, what does it mean to walk the scene with a detective in a homicide?
We go into the scene and just observe. We don't interact with anything and discuss what we see.
When you walked the scene, did you see George Torres?
Yes, I did.
Where was he located?
He was located on the floor in the living room of the apartment.
Did you, with the detective, identify potential items of evidence to be collected?
Yes.
You had mentioned previously about documenting scenes with photographs. Was that done in this case?
Yes, it was. They are photographs I took on the crime scene.
Do they fairly and accurately represent how that crime scene appeared on February 24th, 2020?
Yes, they do.
Here at this time, I'd like to move what's previously been marked for identification to states M into evidence. Photo number 4. Tell us, what is this?
This is the front door to the residence. This is just inside the door. To the right, there is the kitchen area. This is a hutch inside the kitchen. You can see in the background, that is where that first photo of the kitchen was taken. So that's the entryway. And then this is the hutch, and there is a cell phone on the hutch in the kitchen.
States 23.
This is the contents of the trash can. You can see 2 wine bottles on the top of the trash.
Did you also find receipts in that trash can as well?
Yes. This is another photo of the living room. You can see the victim located on the floor and a suitcase in the bottom corner of the photograph. You can also see a wooden baseball bat leaning against the wall.
That baseball bat collected into evidence in this case?
Yes, it was.
So 43 from the deposit?
Yes. This photograph was taken in the living room. You can see the stairs leading to the second floor.
Photo 49 for the composite.
This is a more close-up photograph of the suitcase.
Photo 50.
This is a photograph of one of the zippers on the suitcase. A close-up image of that same zipper. There was also no zipper pull on that one.
Photo 56 from the composite.
More of a close-up image of the items. There were miscellaneous papers and paperwork, some clothing items, and apparent blood inside the suitcase.
What items, what apparent blood was inside the suitcase?
It was observed on the white cap and a necktie, and there was also visible blood just on the interior of the suitcase.
Photo 57 from the composite.
The contents of the suitcase, but you can see the white cap more clearly and the blood observed on it.
58 from the composite.
You can see the necktie with blood. It appeared to be silver multicolored. And then there's also a diazepam syringe in the plastic casing there. It was prescribed to the victim. That is the miscellaneous papers and paperwork that was removed from the suitcase.
Photo 65 from the composite.
That is the baseball bat that was leaning against the wall in the living room.
Ending from the composite.
Photographing more of the staircase. These are the steps leading to the second floor before I proceed up to the second floor.
Photograph the defendant.
Yes, I did.
See the defendant here at court today.
Yes, I do.
Could you please point to them and identify an article of clothing they're wearing?
She is right there with a black blazer and a pink shirt.
Showing you.
This is the photograph I took of the defendant.
Why is it that you were photographing the defendant?
I collected her buccal swabs, which is a DNA standard from the inside of the mouth, and it is part of our procedure to photograph that person for identification purposes.
You also document the rest of her body as well.
Yes, I did.
Photograph 101 from State's composite.
This is a photograph of hands facing upward.
Photograph 102.
This is her right hand facing upward. Both of her hands facing downwards, so the tops of her hands.
Photograph 108.
Her left arm.
During the time you were interacting with the defendant, did she ever indicate to you that she had any injuries?
No.
Evidence from the home as well, in this case.
Yes, I did. These are the 2 wine bottles that were collected from the trash can.
Is your name on that package?
Yes, my name is on the Orange County Sheriff's Office evidence label that I filled out, and my initials are on the evidence seal from when I sealed the package.
And it also has your agency case number and the location information for this case.
Yes, that is correct.
You can unwrap it now. Did you also have occasion to collect the baseball bat from the living room?
Yes, I did.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness who has been previously marked for identification as states B and shown to defense?
You may.
You also had an occasion to collect the suitcase as well in this case.
Yes, I did.
Prior to placing the suitcase into evidence, did you process it?
I took measurements of the suitcase.
What are the measurements of the suitcase?
It was 28 inches in length, 20 inches wide, and 8 7/8 inches deep.
Your Honor, at this time, may the witness step down from the stand and approach the clerk's area?
Yes.
That's yourself. Can you open the inside of it?
Henderson is trying to peek around that podium there.
How easy is it to operate the zipper that closes the suitcase?
It was a little difficult.
I have no additional questions at this time.
Thank you. Any cross-examination?
I love her. I love her matter of factness and just being unbothered.
Hold on. It's just not playing.
Have been removed from the suitcase by first.
No, I don't believe so.
And we know that you have capacity to do DNA analysis, correct?
No, we process DNA or collect swabs for DNA, and then that's submitted to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement for conventional DNA analysis.
You did that with a sample from the inside of Sarah Boone's mouth.
Her buccal swabs were submitted to the FDLE.
And who made that decision?
The detective and I.
Who made the decision not to bother to do a DNA analysis on the blood from the items within the suitcase or the suitcase itself?
That was a discussion between the detective and I.
And you chose not to do that?
No, we did not.
You assumed the blood inside the suitcase belonged to George Torres, correct?
There was blood observed in the suitcase.
But you don't know who that belonged to because you didn't bother to analyze it or have it analyzed, correct?
The blood was not tested.
And what efforts did you make to have the bat analyzed, given the fact that it was apparently evidence?
It was just collected as evidence from the scene.
Did you advise either the lead detective or anybody else involved with this investigation that there may be matters that could be analyzed when analyzing the bat that would help or assist in the investigation of this matter?
It's my job to do the documentation and the collection of evidence.
Well, you said it was a collaborative effort between yourself and the lead detective, so did you participate in that decision?
We chose to collect the bat and put it into evidence.
You indicated that you had some interaction with Ms. Boone, is that correct?
I collected her buccal swabs.
Did you speak with her?
In collecting her buccal swabs, yes.
Did you speak to any other witnesses?
No.
Did you make any determination of other matters that might be of import or evidentiary value when you were going through the house and taking photographs and documenting the interior of the townhouse?
You'll have to be more specific.
Well, how many pictures of the child's bedroom did we see?
Here today,
Yes, ma'am.
we saw the entrance to the bedroom as well as a photograph of the interior of the bedroom.
What was the evidentiary value of that?
It's my job to photograph and document while on scene. So the rooms in the upstairs were photographed and documented.
Did you
Specific.
How about light pillowcases? Did you make any effort to collect and analyze pillowcases of the rooms that you were photographing?
No.
Who made you have significant experience with zippers?
I use zippers regularly, yes.
Enough to have an opinion as to whether or not a zipper is stuck or not.
Is what? Sorry?
You testified on direct that the zipper was a low type.
Just that it was difficult without the zipper pulls to use the zipper.
And that was your opinion.
Yes, from opening the suitcase here today.
Today, you only tested it today?
Pardon?
You only today have for the first time tested the ability to pull open the zipper on the suitcase?
No, I'm saying it was difficult today.
So I think that was, yeah.
She is a great witness. She doesn't give him anything more. He's trying to bait her and he doesn't, like, he's trying to get her to say more. And she was like, no, I'm just saying
She kept her cool. She was like, what? No, that's not my job. My job is
Right.
X, Y, and Z. Yeah. So a lot of second guessing in that cross-examination, which, I mean, I guess they have to do. I was surprised, though, that there was no DNA testing of the blood in the suitcase. I don't know if Sarah is claiming that it was somebody other than George's blood. I don't know.
Yeah, that would be weird because it's victim's blood. It's not like an assailant's blood of like, we're going to put it into some big machine. And he was the only one at the scene bleeding, or who had, well, he stopped bleeding because he was dead. But prior to that,
right.
She said on the 911, his lip was busted and he had blood coming out of his mouth and nose.
And they also,
So-
yeah, you're right. And they also didn't test the bat, the baseball bat, it sounds like. Or
Yeah, but what would they be testing it for? Like the suitcase fibers?
I don't know. They mentioned fibers. I I'm still unsure of how it maybe was used, like to point at his fingers. I don't know, to hit at his little two fingers that were coming out. I don't know.
Well, she said that that's what she was doing, but I think as drunk as she sounded, what was her aim like? Because he also has bruises on both sides of his head. Do you know what I mean? Like, how are you aiming and you can't even actually see him in there?
Yeah.
So even, and I guess maybe his hands, his little two fingers, as she said, are like out by his head somewhere. Do you know?
It's
Because his
possible.
head's probably got to go to the uppermost part of wherever, however he's, laying. The shoulders are the widest part of our body. Um,
Yes, as anybody who has given birth knows, right?
yes, yes. Right.
Um,
Or if you've sat in the middle seat on a plane, if you're
yeah,
not able to give birth,
you
that the yeah.
can't squish the shoulders any more than you can. Do we know if there is any kind of reconstructionist testifying? Was that done at all by either
So
side?
defense did not. I can't tell what the prosecution has entered because they don't have to ask for money, but defense has not. He didn't get, so the one medical examiner that he got approval for, that Owens got approval for JAC to pay, that
Mhm.
guy doesn't have a medical license. And so then Owens came in and said he would not be testifying, but he would be consulting. But he never went back and that's right. And ask for more money for such a person. He also didn't hire a telephone, the digital forensic um, analyst. For phones. He didn't ask for that either.
Like for her cell phone, for their cell phones? Okay.
Yes.
Hmm.
Because I know people in the lovely community have been saying it's probably going to show. We're hoping because it's an iPhone 10 that she has, and I think that's it had tracking in it because I feel like I had my Apple Watch before that, and could track. So did she go up and down the stairs?
Right.
And if so, if it logs that, and at what time? If so,
Oh, okay. All right. Some movement.
right.
Mhm. Wow. Yeah. So the first day of trial went by. I mean, we got a lot of witnesses checked off. Um, it may start to slow down a little bit once we get into the detectives. I'm thinking once they start showing some of the police interrogations of Sarah, but I'm happy with. I think I'm happy with trial day one. It seems like a lot was kind of glossed over or missed, but there's still time, I suppose.
Missed win, like in the opening statements.
No, not in the opening statements, but like going back to Juan Torres and just talking, I don't know, maybe more about George. Um and just some of the stuff that he had in his own statement that was not brought out in the testimony. I don't know.
I feel like they're saving some of it for if the battered spouse, if the overt act makes it in.
Yeah, that's possible. That's possible. Which it won't make it in unless and until Sarah testifies to something that can qualify as an overt act. So more to come.
So this is the question I have. I've been researching it and haven't found it. So if the judge is not the trier of fact, the jury is the trier of fact, can he say, no, that is not an overt act? Or is that something that goes to the jury, but then it's too late for them to put on? Do you know what I mean? Like,
I think the
can
judge
the
is
judge say, no, that's not
going to have to make that determination. That's why the state didn't want any mention of anything, because once something is mentioned about battered spouse syndrome and all the evidence that goes towards that, including reputation and prior arrests and all the prior DV, we can't undo that. Like the jury hears that, and that could tarnish their deliberation. So yeah, that definitely it will be something that will be argued, I think, after Sarah testifies, and the judge will have to make that determination.
So that will be very interesting then. I thought they got off, I mean, it was going really fast. It was interesting and it was moving. I think it's going to slow down a lot more once Owens starts. He just has a slow drawl. And I thought he did a good job at like connecting with the jury. I couldn't obviously see the jury, but he seemed to be making a lot of eye contact and whatnot.
Well, he sure got close to them. I mean, I don't think he used the microphone once. He may have used it once, but it was watching it was interesting because the initial feeds that I had, it couldn't pick them up. It couldn't pick their voices up because they weren't using the podium. They weren't using the mic for
Right.
the podium. So it was very difficult to hear until I found a feed that could pick them up.
Yeah, I heard very little of Mr. J except when he was behind the podium, but it seems like I heard Owens more. And he
Mhm.
definitely was like trying to connect with those guys. So we'll see. I mean, I think he did his job as a defense attorney, right? Build a relationship with the jury and poke holes in everything, even if it doesn't make sense. Just give the jury something to be like, oh, aha, or whatever,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. I mean, he definitely set expectations for his client up. He said Sarah Boone's not perfect. He said she drank too much. She slept in. She's smart but not worldly, right? These are
Oh, the
quotes I
tape
wrote
he
down.
was spinning.
She lied to the police because she didn't understand self-defense or that she had a justifiable reason to use the force that she did. So she lied. So he's really setting expectations, which is what you have to do, with the facts.
Yes. He also took every chance he could to throw shade at George, even though he couldn't get in he was just like, oh, he didn't have a car, he had to take her car, he had to take her credit card.
Mhm.
Never
Yeah.
mind neither one of them went to Publix in a car that day. Like they walked. Sarah talks about that. But it just was like those little kind of like digs, and then Sarah's not worldly. She's smart, but she's not worldly. Like, so that's why she didn't call 911 because you have to be
Mhm.
worldly to call
Mhm.
911. Like, what?
Yeah. You're right. Wow, we've been on for, yeah, it's almost 2 hours.
Let me see. I starred some questions. Let's just go through these like really
Okay.
fast. This was for you. There's a real DV victim on the jury. Do you think someone who has actually been abused will see Sarah as a victim or a perpetrator?
Good question. I don't know. I mean, they could see her as both. I mean, I don't necessarily think she's only a victim or only a perpetrator. They're not mutually exclusive. So she could be some of both. I don't know what that person's story is, but it's possible that they see her as both.
Right. Yeah, I don't know if it's a male or a female, just a victim on there.
I'm
It'll be
actually
interesting.
surprised. I hadn't heard that before. I'm surprised that there is a DV victim on the jury. Who knew? Okay.
Yeah. Okay, and then Northwest was saying the dog and the SA abuse are new stuff to bolster her story. Yeah, there's nothing, I haven't seen anything to corroborate that either, but also there's no witness, right? And I think especially when you go SA, because she already knows, she being Sarah, she doesn't have enough witness. Like nobody saw it. It's
Right.
everybody. She told them about the abuse. That's easier to get away with, I think, with SA because you're not expected to have a witness. But I'm wondering what they'll have, or who they'll have come in. I love that Mr. J filed for this motion in limine, so there's no question it can't come in until she says that, because I think like I mean, we saw Owens with the posters and Sarah on the patio with her dog, and he was because George abused the dog, and like you're gonna mention that in opening, Sarah, after
Yeah.
what the judge
Yeah.
ruled, like what?
Yeah. Nothing to
Yeah,
do with it. Total maligning of George. That was a total attempt to malign him and malign his
right.
character.
And she said he loved the dogs, and so now you're going on with like I just he's playing dirty. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Abraham did not say anything about her. Sorry, I'll read that out loud. Abraham did not say anything about her teaching him a lesson in this statement like he did on the stand, though. Yeah, I mean, he was asked about that on cross examination, whether he told law enforcement about Sarah teaching him a lesson. He did testify to that, and I think he was kind of just like, yeah, I told him, I don't know, I told him what I told him. It didn't really seem like he was making it up now, but it's possible that, when he was talking to law enforcement at the time, he may not have remembered every single detail.
Right. It'll
Next,
yeah.
next
Um
week they're going to
so
shred.
Apollonia said they're gonna go ahead.
Yeah, Apollonia says next week they're going to shred George's character. Sadly, I don't think I can take it. He wasn't a saint, of course not, but it will be rough. Yeah, it's not going to be. It won't be pleasant to watch.
They can't do it though until she has the overt act though, right?
Yeah, that's going to have to be after she testifies. So we still have to. I don't even know if that's going to be next week because we still have to get through all the state's case in chief, and that may be the full week before Sarah is given the opportunity to get on the stand. Lisa Peterson says no witness can testify to Sarah's abuse because Owens will attack George. That is why they are doing this, forcing Sarah to deal with her initial statements. So Sarah's abuse.
I'm not sure. I think Sarah's got to say whatever her news story is because the one that she initially had is not going to get her to battered spouse. And so now, because all the other recorded testimony aside from the hearing, it was a great day.
Right.
So she's got to change that in order to get in the fear of imminent danger.
Yeah, she's maintained up to that point that it was an accident, right? Yeah, she didn't intend for this to happen. That's a lot to overcome. I don't see it happening. But even if they do, even if she does, I think the jury will see right through it.
I hope so.
Veronica, I think Sarah's very jealous of the close, tight-knit community and family upbringing that George had. Awful to all of them. Oh, who told us that? I guess it was Juan who said that she pushed their father and he fell.
Yeah, trying to hug him, he didn't want to hug. She pushed him, he fell. Yeah. And she's very touchy feely because Melissa said that, and I guess her assistant.
Yeah, right. And Juan as well. That shocked me. I had not heard that before. So yeah, that's
About the hitting or the pushing?
No, about the fact that she put. I mean, he said she pushed the dad and he fell. I don't know
Right.
if it was a hug.
No,
But the fact
yeah.
that he fell at her hands is shocking to me.
Yeah. She's a huggy feely. Okay, let me just look at the bottom here. Do you have any questions over on your side?
I think we have the same chat, don't we?
Excellent middle management in a dictatorship. Oh my God. Yes, she would. I could see her with a little clipboard too.
All that writing that she's doing. My goodness, she must be writing her novel or something.
And there's a lot of comments about the battered spouse book.
It's very
Yeah.
evident right there on the table.
Is that like a subliminal to the jury?
It could be. I don't know. I don't know. We can only surmise, right? I don't know the setup of the courtroom either. So I'm not sure what angle the jury's at, if what they can see, how much they can see of the table.
They
I don't know.
are
It's unclear
next.
to me.
They're right next to the witness box. So think of when we had all the hearings. Sarah was sitting over there. It's the same courtroom.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
they're on the defense side, but
Gotcha.
they're supposed to be. The judge clarified that. So yeah,
Okay.
they're closest to Sarah.
All right. Yeah. All right.
Sarah was laughing when they took the suitcase out, which was weird. She's making a lot of expressions. I would like if I were sitting next to her as a jury member, I wouldn't think she was on trial for her life.
Mm.
Like she's writing little post-its and laughing, and it's weird.
Her counsel probably ought to speak with her if she'll take any direction. She probably wouldn't take any direction, but
Right. She's gonna do it her way.
yeah. Yeah.
So we'll see. I'm excited for next week. I am glad it's finally started. I'll be glad when it's over. I had like so much stress in my body, and so when they finally started opening statements, I was like, oh my God, it's happening.
It is happening. I see that Bama Green Eyes gifted one Tanika's 2 cents membership. So
Yes, thank you.
for that. And I also see a comment from Kathy Quinn-Ashby with a $2 super chat, saying she's even asked the cops for a hug. Do you see that?
That
on your
is
side?
true.
Yeah.
Multiple times when she was having George arrested, even on the 911 call, she calls the man babe. Babe, trust me.
Yes.
It's like, ma'am, find a boundary that you don't cross.
What does that mean? Okay, I know, Dr. Barry, I think I've seen your name in here. We are going to get together, the three of us, and hopefully we can get some answers to questions like that. Like, what is the mental state of somebody who has no boundaries, has a lack of boundaries like that? I want to know. I think the people want to know as well.
Yeah. I certainly don't know, but yeah, we'd love to dig into that and all of her other like Sarah-isms.
Yeah, it's so inappropriate. It's so inappropriate. Anyways, I have to run.
Okay. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks, everybody. We appreciate
Thank you. Happy watching
right.
this week, you guys.
Yes.
Bye, Tanika.
See you guys later. Bye-bye.
All right.